You've probably heard the phrase 1,000 times, just do it. It's one of the most iconic calls to action in modern culture. And sure, action matters, but here's the thing nobody tells you. Doing something once or even a few times isn't what creates lasting change. If it were, we'd all have perfect habits by now. So why does behavior change so often fall apart, even when we want it so badly? Because action without identity is fragile. Real sustainable change doesn't start with a task, it starts with a vision of who you want to be, the kind of person who naturally does the things you're trying to force yourself to do. At Stamina Lab, we take a solution focused approach that doesn't just ask, what should I do? Instead, we ask, what do I want? What difference will it make? And what does it say about the kind of person I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? Then we work backwards from that better or preferred future to reveal the small, meaningful steps you'd be taking as you become that person. In today's episode, we're unpacking why just do it mindset misses that mark by a mile, and what to focus on instead if you want your habits to stick, your energy to be well spent, and your goals to align with who you truly are. So, Dr. Teplow, why is just do it not enough?
Well, I was looking at my notes so that action without identity is fragile. And that is just, that you couldn't have said it better because you know what, action, I think about this sort of using a metaphor of weather. We've been talking about feelings, that feelings are like the weather, they come and go. It's cloudy, it's rainy, it's sunny, whatever. It comes and goes, and depending where you are, it can go really fast. What is constant is the sky. And I think that's a good metaphor also for identity. Who you are at your core is core. It doesn't change. It can change how you look at yourself, but you are core. That sustains. Whereas what you do, it can come and go. I mean, you can be a great runner and then, have an injury. Well, you can't run anymore. So then what do? Are you still you if you can't run? And when we identify as what we do rather than who we are, I think that's where we can get tripped up. And when we think that also it's only about doing, we can't keep it because it's not part of who we are.
Yeah. Devil's advocate, just do it though, has been motivating people for decades now from Nike, and it's getting people out the door. So there is some value to that mindset.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't just, think about, oh, who do I want to be? There's, like a magic wand. I mean, you do have to do. And in fact, the action is where it's at. Action is the difference between some kind of abstraction and what moves the world and what moves us through the world and who we are and, and our impact. We all want to, we want our lives to have meaning. And so action is how we embody those thoughts and our feelings and our values. So you have to act. It's when do you focus on the action? When do you focus on identity? How do the two relate?
Yeah. If you just do it before you have a little bit of understanding of why you want to do it and what difference will it make for you, that's where it peters out. You want to ask yourself this question first, then get to the just do it.
Yeah. And, I think we've mentioned it before, but Richard Boyatzis is a social scientist, psychologist who's developed the theory of intentional change, something like that. And his lab has done a lot of brain imaging. And interestingly, they find that when people think about, well, just do it. So what's they make it tiny. What's the tiniest thing I could do just to start doing it? Where their brain is activated is in the analytical side, the problem-based side, the how do I figure it out side. And when that happens, they immediately come up with reasons for not doing it. I'm too tired. It costs too much. I don't have time. Everybody will laugh at me, whatever it is. All of those costs for change. When you start with the dream, and the vision, Glenn, you use that word vision.
Yeah.
That is where the brain, the creative, imaginative side of the brain is activated. So it's not that we don't have to act. You absolutely have to act. You can't just dream about being fit, staying on the couch, right? You got to get your butt off the couch. But it's what do you do first?
Yeah. And what you do when you have that vision and you have that creativity, is there's so many different ways for you to express that difference or that goal you want to have, or what difference will it make? Because now it's not a specific item you want. It's the larger vision of what you want and what difference will that make. We always talk about many paths to the same river. And so when you have that river, that you define that river is flowing, and it's not so fixed. It's not a fixed point. It's a flowing river. You have multiple ways, many paths to get there. So if one path gets clogged or broken or stuck, the cost of change that we talk about, you can take another path to there, because your brain is in that creative mode, not just trying to get through down that one path. It's visioning that river that you want to get to. And there's so many different ways to get there.
Yeah, I think that's really important, is don't get hung up on the single strategy. Keep focused on the river and use your imagination, creativity to explore and discover all the many ways to get to that river.
So with our solution-focused approach, which I encourage everybody to go check out at staminalab.io, we have a whole description on our solution-focused approach and how it's so powerful, and how the research and evidence supports not that's what we're saying, but through many, many studies of peer-reviewed research that shows that, hey, this actually leads to lasting change in a much more joyous way. When you start to apply that now to this just do it, or going beyond just do it for the visioning, what are some steps or questions that people could be asking themselves?
Well, one thing to help them do it, I have this analogy that I think maybe makes our solution focused approach clearer. I hope so. It was fun for me to think about this morning, in contrast to, like, how do I do it? The just do it. So let's say you want to climb a big mountain. So how would you start? Well, you'd have to you make your list of all the things you needed to do. And then you'd make your pathway. And then, well, you might have contingency plans. What if that path is blocked? Okay, if there's too much snow or whatever, I'll go this way. But you do it there. And then, of course, you get into, well, that costs too much, and all of those costs. Because when we, as soon as we start using that part of the brain, we also come into many different kinds of biases, including negativity bias. I tried that once before. It didn't work. I'll never do it again. I can't do it. So that's one way. Solution focused way is to catapult all of those possible barriers, all the possible things that trigger you going, I can't do it, and put yourself right at the top of the mountain, right at the summit. And imagine yourself on that summit. You've done everything it took to get to do the climb. You got to the summit. You're looking from that mountain, that top of the mountain, looking over all the other mountain ranges. By the way, I just got back from a hiking trip, vacation, Utah. So, this is dear to my heart, right? And you're looking and you ask yourself, first of all, you just enjoy it and savor it. And then, what difference has this made to me to have climbed this mountain? What does it say about the kind of person I am? What does it say about how I can show up in the world? What do people notice about me now that I have climbed this mountain? I can share all my stories and all the preparation. So you start there with that dream accomplished. And then where do you, we talked about how do you link up the dream with actual work?
Yeah.
Then you think, okay, so from the top of that mountain, what would I have done? I'm at the top of that. What would I have done to get here? What's maybe one of the first things? And that, then you're not going with what do I have to do, but what would I have done? And you're looking at it from a position of your achievement and your capacity to have achieved, rather than starting at ground zero, having done nothing. What do I have to do to get there? I'm already there.
And would you say that also too, our brain is thinking that we've already done the task that we're trying to say, what would I be doing right now? Well, our brain has already actually done that because we've already been there.
Exactly. And so then it's like, maybe I would have made a list. Okay, how would I have done that? And see, we don't have barriers, because we're imagining it from that position of having already done it.
Yeah, and then it makes it feel less of a chore, because you've already done it. It allows you to be more motivated to do it, because you're already through there, and you're already in that top of that mountain. And obviously the mountain can be metaphorical to anything.
Absolutely.
There's a good metaphor for that. But you insert your mountain there, and so it doesn't feel as onerous to be doing any of the tasks along the way. I mean, this is a key part, a strategy for if you want to get into flow state, is to know that where this vision point is you want to be. So every step along the way, even the most minute task, feels inspiring and energetic because you know where you're going and what that outcome is going to be. And you're able to, again, drop in that state where you're able to do things at just a higher level of performance, even the most mundane things.
Absolutely. It brings me another example. Maybe it's not the high mountain or the summiting, 14 but doing the dishes. Oh God, I have to do the dishes. There's such a pile. How do I start? And I think, well, let's say I've already done the dishes. What would I have done first? So for me, when I think, how do I do the dishes? I have to organize them because it's a jumble of pots, pans, and dishes. So the task is I have to organize them. Oh gosh, I don't want to organize them. But when I think, okay, I've already done the dishes, kitchen's just how I want it. What would I have done first? You know what occurs to me? I would have put on music and I would have put on a clean apron that I really like, that is associated with, my kids gave it to me for a gift, or I got it in a gift shop at some place where I traveled to and had a great hike or whatever. It never would occur to me if I start, prospectively, what do I have to do? But what have I already done? And because the creativity is released and it just makes it, you said joy or ease, totally.
Yeah, no, it's what would I have done to achieve this? What difference would it make? And how would I have done it that was enjoyable and fulfilled me? I think that's also a great question that you were saying is, okay, how would I have gotten these dishes done and enjoyed the process?
Exactly. And, one thing that happened yesterday during a coaching call is that one of our students, kind of big discovery, said, you know, life can be full of joy and ease. And she's been doing our quest for, I think, almost a year. And she did something extraordinary this week that was just full of joy and ease, very unexpected to her. But joy and ease. So that's part of this. And it's not to say that you don't have to work hard. And it's not to say that, sometimes life is tough, but we can manage in a way that's aligned with our values and who we want to show up in the world. Yes.
So what else would we be asking? What is another question that we should be asking when we're working on going beyond just do it?
So one of the things is, we talked about what difference would it make? And I think that's really important. What difference would it make? And keep asking, and what difference would that make? So you could say, okay, well, I want to, climb the mountain. What difference would that make? Well, I'd feel a sense of accomplishment. Okay, what difference would that make? Well, I'd also see beauty. What else? So asking the what else and what difference to get to, it's kind of the opposite of root cause analysis. It's to get to what is at the heart, because you will find at the heart is I would be the model to my kids. I would, I want to make money. What difference would it make? Well, life easier. What difference will that make? Well, ultimately, if I ask what difference and what else and what difference, you get down to, I really want to be a generous person. I want to be able to give of myself in a way that helps others. And I want to be seen as generous. And then we ask, and this is taking it out of the strategy because people get hooked on the strategy. So when you're that generous person, what else are you doing that shows that generous? So it's taking your identity and expanding it beyond the just do it. I'm an exerciser. I'm an active person. What does that say about you? It says, I care about my health. What difference does that mean? It's that I want to be able to contribute to my family and to my community. And what other ways do you see yourself contributing that is meaningful to you? And how does being an exerciser help you do that? So you connect action to identity and values.
And that makes infinite amount of paths to that path to that river that you want to be, because now you've expanded it so much. And when we do our coaching calls with, especially in our group coaching quest calls, especially with people who've been in it for the whole year membership, when they ask that question over and over again, they surprise themselves. Oh, I just kept asking myself that question, and it just goes from more of a tactical thing that they want to do, which is where they were at, to just something deeper. And then they said, I keep asking that deeper question, and you get 4 or 5 times down there, and you're getting to something that's much larger than they could possibly imagine. It's such a breakthrough for everyone because, again, it opens up the options that they can do to get to that river and how they can show up in their day. And also, again, we talk about this without doing this work without the guilt and shame, because now you're not just beating yourself up because you didn't just do that one task or that one strategy. Now you have so many different options. So you're looking at your day in a much larger context. Okay, there's many different ways that I was a caring person, that I was cared about my health. And what were those? Let me notice all those ways.
Yeah, and I think, that's so important to recognize that we can think of, we need to take action. And so we focus on those actions that we want. And yet when we are more open to seeing ourselves in the different contexts, we then can recognize ways that we can take action and things we hadn't thought about. I want to be generous and charitable. Okay, great. I didn't make so much money this month, so I can't give as much. Does that mean that I'm not generous and charitable? No, I realized that I went to the library and the librarian was having a really tough day. I just chatted with her a little bit and I complimented her on how well she was dealing with her stress and how she always has a smile. And I realized, I may not have been able to give as much money to the charities that I like to support this month, but it made a difference. That librarian was much happier when I left after, just complimenting her and noticing the nice things she was doing, even though she had had a terrible day.
That's fantastic. So as we wrap up here, I want to do something like we do in our coaching calls. Like, what's a coach question? And we like to leave our coaching calls with a question that allows someone to resonate or marinate with between sessions. So they're just, it's usually those questions where people say, I never thought about that. What could we give someone to take away from this conversation that they could ask themselves?
That's a good question. You throw these at me, it makes it very fun. I'd say I'd think about what I want. Who is the person that I want to be seen as? And I'd say, and suppose you wake up tomorrow and you're just a little bit more of that person you really want to be. What's the very first thing you'd notice? How would you get out of bed in a way that's a little different, that shows you are on that path to becoming that person? And as you go through your day, even, using the bathroom, brushing your teeth, what are those tiny little signs that you see that says, yeah, I am a little different. I am moving towards becoming that person I really want to be.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic place for us to wrap up. If today's episode resonated with you, and if you're ready to move beyond willpower or the just do it and align your behavior change with your identity, we invite you to join us inside Stamina Lab, whether it's through our core health group coaching membership that we've been talking about, or one of our 14-day health quests that we've mentioned before. We're here to help you become the person you're ready. We're here to help you become the person you're already on the path to being. That's the point here. You're already on that path. Even by listening to this, you're already on that path. So visit staminalab.io for more information on that. Then click on the core health group coaching membership. Also, please hit like and subscribe. It helps the YouTube algorithm because we talk about solution-focused strategies every week, and you get some of these fantastic questions that Dr. Teplow just asked throughout this whole session. We also have a couple great assessments and quizzes you can take. One is our quick science-backed assessment that really reveals how your mindset is flexible. It's called the Mindset Flexibility Score. It's a snapshot of how well you adapt, stay grounded, and move forward when things get challenging. That link in the show notes. We also have our perceived stress scale. It's one of the most widely used, scientifically validated tools for measuring how you feel about the stress in your life, not just how much you have. So you'll just take 2 minutes assessment and you'll get a personalized score and insights into how your body and mind are responding to daily pressure. And if you want to learn more about our unique solution-focused approach, as I said at the beginning, visit staminalab.io. You can also book a complimentary coaching session there. And please leave your questions and comments below. We love to answer those. Thank you, Dr. Teplow.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, remember, you are your own lab, you are your own experiment, and you are your own best coach. Be well.